Welcome to Spenny and the Nets, episode 240. That's right, we've done it for 240 episodes here at Spenny and the Nets. Previously, we were Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick. Now we're Spenny and the Nets. I'm your host. I'm Spen Harris. And despite the failures of this organization in the last several years, I remain a die-hard Brooklyn Nets fan. Got a lot to talk about this episode. Not really just a few things. And I want to start with some rumors that have been going around in regards to Brooklyn Nets' own Cam Thomas. So, based off of things I'm reading on Twitter, according to, I believe it's NBA Central, the trade value for Cam Thomas right now, it's non-existent. Teams do not want to give up really anything for a guy who's on an expiring deal. He's done at the end of this year. He dictates, he has final say on where he wants to and doesn't want to be traded. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Last 2-3 years, injuries, they've pretty much taken away a lot of his playing time. So if there's a team out there, there's a contender who wants to try to add Cam Thomas, it's hard for them to want to give up much at this point. I get it. I hate that I get it. I wish that this was a player that Sean Marks could have dealt when his value was a little bit higher. But here we are where, a third into the 2025-2026 season, and a guy who at the very beginning of the season, I'm sure there are a lot of Nets fans who would have argued that Cam Thomas is pound for pound was the best scorer on this team. I mean, I don't think that people realized how good Michael Porter Jr. was going to be this year. But here's the report from Brian Lewis of the New York Post. The Brooklyn Nets are looking to trade Cam Thomas, but there simply isn't a market for him. The Nets are expected to gauge the market for Thomas, who has rejected a 2-year, $30 million deal with the team option for the second season and a 1-year, $9.5 million contract with incentives up to $11 million while waiving the no trade clause. There has to be a market for Thomas, and multiple league sources have told the Post there simply isn't one. This is a guy that we know he's gifted when he scores or when he's on the court. We know that he's gone through his fair share of hurdles as a Brooklyn Net, right? He was drafted in the first round, I believe, the year that the Nets were able to acquire Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So he was on the bench for a lot of those early years, and then they get moved, and all of a sudden he starts to get time. He starts scoring in bunches. That doesn't necessarily result in wins for the Nets, but you like what you saw from this kid early on, and he just wasn't really able to win over the Nets front office. And it's weird because this is a guy who he was a first-round pick of Sean Marks. Like, obviously, Marks liked what he saw from Cam Thomas coming out of LSU, but we're at this point where you didn't want to give him the deal over the summer. He opted to take the 1-year deal with the no trade clause. And now you're at this point where he doesn't have a market, and it sucks. Because I do think that there's an obvious destination for Cam Thomas, and I've said this on my Twitter page. Go give me a follow at Spen Harris if you can. I've said that Milwaukee makes a ton of sense for Cam Thomas. Bucks need scoring. They need an additional offensive weapon aside, from guys like Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Ryan Rollins. You bring in a guy like Cam Thomas to help take the offensive load off Giannis when he's back. I think that would make a ton of sense. Obviously, defensively, Cam Thomas is extremely limited. But you kind of take that and you roll with his offensive game. And I think he would be great in Milwaukee. And here it's to me, it's a win-win for Milwaukee because see if Cam Thomas could win with Giannis, see if they can get them back in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference and maybe make a run in the playoffs. And if you still decide to trade Giannis after acquiring Cam Thomas, you now have this young 23-year-old, I think he's 23 years old, 23-year-old building block who you can potentially start to rebuild your organization and have him as a building piece for the future. It makes too much sense for him to go to Milwaukee. I'm not sure there's a team in the West who necessarily needs his scoring, and that just speaks to how good the West is right now, in terms of offensive firepower for teams 1 through 10. I was looking at the list of teams in the West, and you just think of the standings right now. I mean, Oklahoma City Thunder don't need Cam Thomas. Denver's a team, actually, I think they can use Cam Thomas off the bench, but they like their young pieces. The Lakers do not need another ball handler on that team. The Spurs, they already have a plethora of guards. They don't need another one. Houston is a team that is interesting. Obviously, if Fred VanVleet goes down early on, they're giving Reed Shepherd some minutes. Could Cam Thomas come in and sort of be that backup point guard? He could be, but at what cost, right? You're not going to give up a young building piece if you're Houston for Cam Thomas. Minnesota's another team. I can see Cam going there and possibly giving Anthony Edwards a lift off the bench when they rest AE. That's a team that could, I guess, use a guard. Then you have Phoenix, you have Golden State. I mean, I don't know if he makes sense in Golden State, just because he is more of an isolation scorer. Memphis and Utah, and that rounds out the West. If you look in the East, Detroit, yeah, like Detroit could use Cam Thomas, but I don't like what they got going for them right now. They're 21-5. I think they'd be looking to add to that front court to help out Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart. The Knicks are not. I don't see the Nets making a deal with the Knicks again. The Raptors, no, doesn't make sense in Boston. Orlando, no. Philadelphia, no. Cleveland, maybe. Atlanta, maybe. He would not work in Miami, and Milwaukee sitting there at that 10th seed right now. So that's what I think on Cam Thomas. I think it's sad that we weren't able to maximize his value when he was at his peak powers with the Brooklyn Nets, but that's the name of the game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose when you gamble by keeping these guys that extra year. Now we look at who else on this Nets roster could be traded. And the one guy that kind of pops out, it's Nick Claxton. You haven't seen his name out there too much, but he has been having a really good year for the Brooklyn Nets. Still pretty young. I think him to the Lakers, again, we heard the buzz last year. They ended up acquiring Jackson Hayes, who really didn't elevate them too much. I think Nick Claxton's a much better player than Jackson Hayes. I also think that, Dalton Connect, who is having trouble seeing the court in LA, Nets can use another guy like that. Bring in Dalton Connect, give us a second round pick or two. We'll give you Nick Claxton. I think that deal just seems too obvious to me. But then again, that's why I'm not a general manager in the NBA. That's really all the news I have surrounding the Nets. Looking on X, I mean, it's all about the NBA Cup, right? It's all about the Knicks and the Spurs. It's all about all these successful teams, and even the tankers, like the Nets right now would have the sixth pick, right? Because it's if you're just going by standings, the Wizards, the Pacers, the Pelicans, the Clippers, and the Kings all have a worse record than the New York Nets. The Brooklyn Nets, they have less wins than the Brooklyn Nets. So, if you're looking at the top of the league, the Nets aren't there. If you're looking at the bottom of the league, the Nets aren't there. They're in that sort of middle of the pack with Charlotte, with Chicago, with Utah, with Portland, and with Dallas. All right, let's do some game recaps. We had 2 games in the last week, so a slow week for the Nets. We'll start with the dominating win on Sunday against the Bucks, 127-82. Shout out to assistant coach Steve Hetzel. He was in the mix because Jordy Fernandez had an illness. So Coach Hetzel not only got his first win in the NBA, he won by 45 gosh darn points. Pretty damn impressive, all things considered, especially going up against a team in Milwaukee who is actively trying to win. Like they're sitting there at 10th in the East. They're 11-16 right now. They're not trying to tank like the Brooklyn Nets are. So great performance all around. This was really a team win, and it was led by a guy who I've been very critical with up to this point, Jaeger Joman. Jaeger was coming off an abysmal game against Dallas. We'll get to that shortly. But he was called out by his coach, Coach Fernandez, after the loss in Dallas. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here. He said if Jaeger can't pick it up and he can't be better in the minutes he's being given, those minutes are going to go elsewhere. And there's a guy on the Nets bench who's been the backup point guard for the majority of the season, Tyrese Martin. It's been pretty good when he's out there. The last two games, even double figures. He's hitting the three ball. He makes the right read. He's lengthy. He's athletic. This is a guy who's bounced around. He's been a journeyman. He's been in and out of the G League, but this is the NBA. Like we can be as patient as we want. If you're going to go out there and not make an impact on the game, it doesn't matter if it's your first month in the league or your 10th month in the league. Those minutes are going to be taken away from you. So shout out to Jaeger for bouncing back, responding to Coach Fernandez's criticism. I was really impressed in this one, mainly because you can see from the jump, he was more aggressive. He was taking better shots. He was making better basketball decisions. Jaeger finished with 17 points on 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. He was 3 of 3 from the free throw line in 26 minutes, and he was at plus 20 in this game. I was happy to see it. I'm rooting for him. The thing I want to see with Jaeger Joman after this game, and I'm challenged. This is a challenge to the 8th overall pick in the draft. I want to see a consistency in scoring. I want to see better ball handling, and I want to see him reduce the turnovers. He did have 2 turnovers in this game. He seems to have 1 or 2 careless turnovers every single game where he's either losing the handle or someone's taking it from him. Either way, I need to see him take care of the ball. I need to see him handle the ball better, and I need to see him be more consistent in his scoring. Okay, you can't go from 4 games with single digits to 1 game with double digits. You're starting in the NBA. You're getting 25 minutes a game. Unless you're putting on 10 assists a game, which he's not doing, the scoring needs to be there. So shout out to him. He was able to step up to the plate in this one. And he wasn't the only guy. I mean, every single Nets starter was in double figures. Terrence Mann finished with 12 points. Nick Claxton finished with 10 points. Noah Clowney had 16. MPJ had 12. His hot streak kind of ended, but he didn't really need to do much in this one. This game was pretty much over after halftime. And then off the bench, the Nets had 4 guys in double figures. Drake Powell, another rookie, 13 points, 4 of 7 from him. He was 2 of 4 from 3. Like to see Powell get it going. Day'Ron Sharpe had 10 points and 8 rebounds. Tyrese Martin, 14 points, 5 of 8 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. Tyrese Martin was hitting some goddamn Steph Curry shots in this one. I mean, that's how hot the Nets were. Zaire Williams also had 10 off the bench, and Danny Wolf was 2 points away from double figures with 8 points. Tough shooting day for Danny Wolf, 3 of 12 from the field, 0 of 7 from 3, but still was able to be a plus 26. I mean, everyone on the Nets was a plus something. The lowest was Terrence Mann with plus 7. The highest was Drake Powell with plus 31. So shout out to the Nets. In a dark season, it was nice to get a win like this. You had Kyle Kuzma saying some bizarre stuff after the game. And overall, just a good feel-good win. And then that I talked a little bit about it, but we go back to Friday. The only game I wanted to talk about was the Dallas Mavericks loss, 119-111. The Nets were in this game for the most part. They did lose it in that fourth quarter. They got outscored 29-19. Cooper Flagg had some big plays in this one. He had 22 points. Anthony Davis was sleptwalked through the first half. It seemed like he woke up in the second half. 24 points for Anthony Davis, 14 rebounds. And like I said, this was a tough game for Jaeger. 3 points for Jaeger Joman in 18 minutes. He was 1 of 7 from the field, 2 turnovers, 1 assist, 1 rebound. It's got to be better. It's got to be better than that. He can't not have an impact on the game. And that's why I think Jordi Fernandez got a little bit frustrated with him. Just wasn't crazy. It has not been crazy with Jaeger's performance as of late. Michael Porter Jr. continued his hot streak, 34 points on 12 of 20 from the field. He's an absolute beast. If the season ended right now, he's an all-star, hands down, if we're being serious about it. He has been putting up absurd numbers since Cam Thomas went out with injury, and he's putting this team on his back in games like this where really nobody else Your second leading scorer was Danny Wolf off the bench. He had 17.7 rebounds, 6 of 10 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3-point range. He continues to be a force. Every time he is on the court, he raises the level of play for the Nets. He makes the right basketball read. Even after this game, Cooper Flagg dapped him up. That's how special he is. And by the way, he's going to force himself to be in the starting lineup soon. They're going to eventually have to start Claxton, Clowney, and Danny Wolf. I can see it now. That's how they're closing out some games. Claxton had 12 and 10. Clowney had a bad shooting night. He finished with 11 points. And Tyrese Martin, who, as I mentioned, is going to get Jaeger's minutes when he struggled. Tyrese Martin had 11 points off the bench in 16 minutes. One less turnover than Jaeger. 3 rebounds, 1 assist for Tyrese Martin. All right. And that really does it for this week's episode. I do want to shout out Coach Steve Hetzel. They were able to give him a little shower bath They were able to douse him in ice water after that 45-point win. The vibes are there with this Nets team, guys. The camaraderie, the chemistry, it's there. You just need more talent, and you need more time, and you need more time for these guys to develop. So we're seeing some good things. Danny Wolf, Drake Powell, both trending up after this Bucks win. Jaeger, Joman trending up. We have yet to see Nolan Traore really make an impact on this NBA squad. He's been getting some minutes here and there, but just not enough to make an impact. And then Ben Suraf, obviously, we've seen what he can do in the paint in terms of scoring and being shifty and being creative when he gets to the rim, just about rounding out the rest of his game. So that does it for episode 240 of Spenny in the Nets. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, download, subscribe to the pod. Give me a follow on Twitter at Spen Harris. And I look forward to talking to you guys again next week. Bye-bye.